Hello and welcome, Exiles. This is a Berserker Shield Crush armor stacking character. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a map showcase to give you an idea of what we're doing on the character here with a Minotaur. And while we're going through the map, I'll talk about it a little bit. My idea behind this character is I wanted to take advantage of a few things. I want to take advantage of the new chest piece utulas. This chest piece right here gives a bunch of life, but has a strong condition of you cannot wear other pieces of gear with life on it. And my plan behind using this was essentially that I was going to have a character that could have a lot of gear freedom, so to speak, in what I could put on it, while also maintaining a good life total. So that was the idea, that was the thought process behind it. I actually really liked this portion of the build. I want to use utulas in more builds. I think it frees up and actually gives you quite a lot of gear power in one way where it makes your build cheaper because your gear doesn't have to be perfect, right? For example, you could have an item that just has 3 or 4 good mods, doesn't happen to have life, which would normally be, oh, doesn't have life vendor, but you could actually take advantage and use that because all of a sudden you don't actually want the life modifier and you do want to build around this chest piece because it gives you the freedom to do so. So it makes your gear cheaper in a way, but I would also say that I think it's competitive with gear pieces that have life on it even. Which is weird to say, but I actually think it is. It's 1,000 life. That's actually quite a lot. In terms of if you were getting life on every single piece of gear, you would still barely match it, if not getting less life than you have on this piece. If you have like T1 rolls of life everywhere, it's that good. 1,000 life is quite a lot of life, so it frees you up quite a bit in that regard. And then on top of all that, and this is what it looks like damage-wise for Minotaur, and most everything mapping-wise, you're in the threshold of damage where we are stealing the unbreakable node. We have 300,000 armor. You can pretty much ignore everything. On Ubers, you start to get hit harder. Sorry, a little side tangent. But anyways, as I was saying, utulas, I like it a lot. It frees up your gearing. It allows me to put on basically the Formless Flame, this helmet that has no life on it, but has a cool mod of allowing me to scale my armor through fire res, and that would allow me to then have essentially a lot of gear pieces like that where I don't have life, but I get some value out of it or some special thing that allows me to build my character in a unique way. So you'll see throughout we get to use Formless Flame, and that feels good. I get to use something like a Dragon Fang here, which was allowing me to get the break point between getting 5 to 7 to 6 to 8 flat damage per armor, and then you get some flat as well, along with a radius breakpoint, so you get a bit more AoE when you get to that level. I also was able to use a Emperor's Vigilance comfortably because it's not a shield that has life on it, but it's a shield that gives a lot of armor, a lot of ES, allows you to build crit into your shield skill. Feels great to use. This stuff is all just allowing me, or giving me the freedom to build into these items and feel good about it. So that's the idea behind utulas. Outside of utulas, the other thing originally I had started this character with is I wanted to build around the Tassilios Fire Res applies the cold and lightning res. Originally, my character was called Chieftain's Only Use Case, which, in my opinion, the only use case is playing a Juggernaut or a Berserker and stealing one of Chieftain's nodes that is good for those characters in some form or another. Originally, my plan was I was going to steal that node as a Juggernaut, and then I was going to stack all this fire res. You'll see on my character, if I have my flasks on, I have 640 fire res. And I was going to steal that node, and if I have that node, it's going to give me a lot of lightning res, right? Because it puts all my fire res and gives me some lightning res. So the idea was I would have, 370 lightning res. I'll go put on this Choir of the Storm, and it's going to give me a bunch of crit chance because I'm doing this thing. It's allowing me to get some good crit in my build without really having a lot of crit on the tree. And I did all of that, and I was like, wait a second. I could do this. I'm forcing in 2 jewel sockets and an amulet for 300% crit chance. Or I could just play a Berserker, an Ascendancy that has a bunch of damage on it. It even has some crit chance, crit multi, all these damage multipliers. And then I could just steal Unbreakable. And basically somebody had brought this up in my stream. It's like, why don't you just play Berserker? And then I thought through it a little bit. I'm like, wait a second. That's completely right. Why am I forcing in this just to get lightning rise? And I was like, ultimately, it was just one of those moments where I'm like, face palming, like, yeah, I kind of screwed this by doing this. I should just be playing Berserker, stealing the Jug node. I shouldn't even be stealing the Chieftain node. I'm just forcing it when I even shouldn't. So, weirdly enough, I came away with the conclusion that, yes, me stealing my build, my whole name of my character, which was around stealing Chieftain's only use case, stealing the Chieftain node, I didn't end up even doing in it basically doubled my damage while I kept most everything the same. I had enough accuracy without Juggernaut. I had more attack speed with Berserker. I lost a tiny percentage of armor, but since I already had so much percent armor, it didn't matter. So it was just a straight upgrade to turn my character into a Berserker and then steal the one node that was carrying Juggernaut, Unbreakable. And that was that. It was a surreal experience. Maybe later on the league, I'll figure out a better use case for stealing a chieftain node. But as of right now, my conclusion was, wow, that was not worth doing. On top of all that, as you can see on my build, I'm stacking a lot of fire res. Essentially what I did is I got some fractured fractured all res rings for about 10 C for a base, and then I would go and I'd spam some veiled chaos, basically trying to hit a suffix with another res mod. And every time I would unveil, I'd be going for unveiled fire res, just so I could end up with a ring with a lot of fire res on it to stack into the armor scaling of the Formless Flame. My whole idea behind this character was I didn't want to be an aura stacker. I know armor stackers I know the tried and true way is aura stacking. I wanted to see if I could just do a more balanced approach of building a character. Would it work out? And truth be told, it works sort of. It's decent at mapping, but the second you go to do something like Ubers, your percent armor, the amount of armor we have, 300k, it's not enough to ignore Uber attacks. It's the Ubers are still enough damage at that point where they can still kind of shred through your armor because they hit hard enough. I also was doing some shenanigans with the regen ascendancy based on fire res and stacking a bit of max fire res so I could put on a annihilations approach, which I can sustain, but I don't over sustain by much. And this is ultimately probably not the best play. I like to try to force these boots into builds. I want to make them work so badly, but still it eludes me a bit to how I can do it effectively. This build was no exception. I'd say it's still not the boots I should be using. There were multiple times in the Ubers where I would just be turning off the Annihilations approach, specifically so my character would regen. My character does have quite a bit of regen, and also Annihilations approach would delete all my ES. Eventually, in like the future, when they add the thing where you can get keystones, maybe I could fit in Eldritch Battery into the build with this 1000 ES, and that would feel really good for my blessing and to not have as much mana problems. But it is what it is. Right now we're sustaining through Mana Leech, and so until we hit an enemy, we have some bad mana, and I'll press this, and they'll have a time frame where I have to wait for my mana to come back to get that first hit to get some Leech. There's some awkwardness there. I'm rambling a bit, but I'm trying to talk through what my idea behind the character was. There was also the use of the flip res node, stacking a little bit of life, getting the armor applies to chaos damage, so my armor would protect me from chaos, physical, and elemental. And it ended up basically being, during mapping, felt nigh immortal. The second I got into Ubers with a Shaper pen, all of a sudden I felt very, very small, because that's when the armor shredding started to occur. So that's been my experience with playing this character. I don't recommend it. I think it's an okay build I made here. I'm not particularly impressed with myself on this one. If you're wondering, I think it's mediocre at best, especially not great for the cost. And so I'm not going to recommend this build. I just want to talk about the stuff I tried here with stacking fire res with Formless Flame. I wanted to try out the difference or the different approach. I know aura stacking is a great approach for specifically a armor stacker. I don't like doing what's something that's already been done. I like to try different things to experiment, because sometimes you find good things, sometimes you make trash, and this just happens to be a scenario where I made a little bit of trash, and that's how it goes. I am somebody who likes to experiment, and I will continue to be that way throughout the game as I play it. If you're wondering, yes, I am using Balbala. It's pretty simple logic. I was trying to force in a lot of fire res into my build. Right now we have 519. If I have permanent uptime on these flasks, I get up to 644. I could have tried to push more flask duration, more flask sustain, and potentially gone for the uptime on like a basalt or a granite flask. I think that's a bit too much investment to have permanent uptime or consistent uptime on, so I didn't end up doing that. But if you're wondering why I'm using these res flasks instead of trying to force in a basalt or a granite or a jade, stuff like that, they require more flash charges to use, they have less duration, and they're just a lot more investment to get good uptime on. So that's why I wasn't doing that, in case you were wondering. Okay. Anyways, this is the character I made for Armor Stacking Shield Crush. I don't recommend it. It's what I did. Hopefully you guys can learn something from this. I'm excited to try to build around utulas in the future. And also, I just want to shout out to Replica Dragonfang. If you're playing a niche build that's off meta, there's probably a +3 amulet for your exact build that costs less than a divine. I also gambled a lot of these and ID'd a lot of them. There's the ones that are valuable are pretty much only selectly builds that are somewhat meta, like actually like 1% or above play rate on that skill. If it's below that, it is cheap as can be. I would recommend checking out this amulet. There's probably, if you're playing some off meta build, there's probably a chance you get a +3 for really cheap, and it's quite good amulet. Anyways, that is the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy my look at trying to make a armor stacking shield crusher. It's the first time I played the skill. It was a fun experience. I might play it again in the future, but we'll have to take a different approach next time we do it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. As always, thanks for watching, Exiles. Take care and peace.